name is Brayden Walker, and my topic is on divorce. To provide a better perspective, according to the National Center for Health Statistics, about 45% of marriages end in divorce. To provide some context, as you saw from the previous slide, divorce is very prevalent in today's society. Divorce can be defined as the legal splitting of a married couple. It creates rigorous pressure for families, oftentimes affecting the relationship amongst each family member. Divorce is not only impacts the parents of the relationship, but it also impacts the youth, or the children, so to say, in the family. This process can have detrimental effects to the children, often including effects such as anxiety, pessimistic views towards their own future relationships, and decreasing trust levels with the children or with the parents in the family. Divorce, according to the National Library of Medicine, about 45.8% of teenagers will reach the age of 17 while still living with their parents who were married before or around the time of their birth. I arrived at this topic because I believe divorce is a very impactful process that affects numerous people in our community throughout the United States. Divorce hits very close to home with me, as my parents are divorced, and they got a divorce when I was about 10 years old. Personally, the process did not affect me too tremendously due to the support I had with both of my parents as well as my brother. But I have seen in many cases where this process is everything but smooth, and it leaves the kids to live in unstable or almost unfavorable conditions. Oftentimes, the process of divorce can leave kids just not worried about their next steps, and oftentimes leaving them juggling many different situations at home. Throughout my research of divorce and its impacts on youth, I have found that it can create a very unfortunate circumstance for teenagers as well as children. I believe that divorce places a problematic and unhealthy situation on these teenagers. Throughout my research of divorce, I have found that divorce can be partly to blame for mental as well as emotional aspects of health changed throughout a child's upbringing. As a result of my research, I hope to find why teenagers struggle because of divorce, as well as to see if their age in which their parents underwent the process of divorce has any effect on their emotional, mental, or behavioral aspects of their health, as well as pursuing intimate relationships and how their mental and emotional aspects of health could impact how they pursue intimate relationships in the future. So, according to Edward Shore from the American Academy of Pediatrics, a child's well-being is directly related to the physical health and social health and circumstances of their parents. Furthermore, a child's parent serves as their caretaker, guardian, as well as their mentors. And as well as divorce is prone to build a lack of trust between parent and child relationships. And with this lack of trust being built, it can ultimately create a worse environment for the child to live in, causing lower trust levels between the parent and the child. In an article by Shanak Patel from the New York University, he observed the divorce processes and how it affects the mental and emotional scope of teenagers going through the divorce process. When looking at teenagers ranging from 13 to 18 years old, he found that they are more likely to develop or experience with new and risky behaviors. These new and risky behaviors often include high levels of anxiety, substance abuse, and sometimes even sexual behaviors. Teenage depression, also in a study by Indiana University, they found that teenagers from divorce oftentimes are more likely to experience depressive feelings as well as develop depression later on in life. Teenage depression derives from emotional shifts and changes throughout the teenager's lives, oftentimes found through the process of divorce. In my research, I'll be focusing on how divorce affects the well-being of teenagers, primarily, which leads to my research question: what are the effects of teenagers on divorce and their views on intimate relationships? In my method, I'm aiming to find how divorce impacts teenagers, especially their well-being. Also want to find what factors can influence this well-being and what changes and shifts can also impact their health and their mental aspects, which could differ because of the process of divorce. To conduct my research, I used a survey in which I wanted to discover how or when teenagers were affected most by this process of divorce. I mainly focused on simple parts of divorce revolving around the mental and emotional aspects of divorce that could have had the most influence on their young adult lives. I also introduced a qualitative study mixed in with my quantitative studies so that I could provide a more developed or higher quality understanding of what divorce means to each individual person. So for my gap, throughout my research, I found that there might be a slight gap pertaining to individuals pursuing intimate relationships. So since divorce can have an impact on the emotional and mental, or even behavioral aspects of the teenager's health, this could strongly influence how they pursue new intimate relationships. So in my survey, I assured the recipient of the terms and conditions following the survey. This ensured the survey recipient that their answers would be kept completely anonymous. So to begin the survey, I asked one main question regarding that the recipient was from a divorced family. If the recipient was not from a divorced family, I omitted their answers and they were not counted towards my research. I then asked 4 basic follow-up questions regarding their gender, where they're from, who they believe to be the most influential person in their young adult lives, as well as the age at which the parents underwent the process of divorce. Throughout my research of scholarly articles, I found that the parents have the most influence over their child's lives over anybody that they will ever come in contact with. Furthermore, the age at which they undergo this process of divorce can impact the influence that the parents have on this child's life. Next, I added many more additional questions pertaining to my gap, which is how do teenagers view love relationships differently after their parents' divorce? I also added some questions pertaining to how their mental or emotional aspects of health could have changed due to the divorce process, as well as possibly leading to depressive symptoms or unhealthy amounts of anxiety. So after posting my survey, I posted it on my personal social media accounts in hopes to reach as many people from as many groups of society as possible. I left the survey open for 48 hours in hopes that I could keep gaining more responses and help interpret my new interpretation. After getting 98 responses, I closed the survey down and I analyzed all my data. And I did have some limitations. My main limitation though was that in my initial research process, I was going to post my survey throughout the school. But due to school regulations and some other things, I was not able to do that. But I think posting the survey on my personal social media accounts benefited my data because I was able to reach a more diverse group of people instead of just people from Spanish Fort High School. Here are my results. Out of all the teenagers I surveyed 25 out of 98 said that their parents got a divorce between the ages of 0 and 3. 26 participants reported that their parents got a divorce between the ages of 4 and 7. 26 reported that the parents got a divorce between the ages of 8 and 12. And 21 reported that the parents got a divorce between the ages of 13 and 17. Out of these 98 participants, 65% of them said that their parents' divorce had a negative effect on their upbringing. Furthermore, out of that 65%, 21.7% said that divorce had a detrimental effect on their upbringing, while only 19.3% said that divorce had very little impact on their childhood. Based on this information, I can infer that divorce definitely does have an impact on the upbringing of each individual child. Whether this divorce is detrimental or has little to no impact varies on the child, but I can infer that it definitely does have some impact on the well-being of each individual. I also asked questions pertaining to the health aspects in which could have changed during the process of divorce. As you can see, nearly 87% said that their mental health changed as a product of divorce, and nearly 47% said their behavioral health changed as a product of divorce. To further my research and ultimately fill the gap in which I have established, I asked questions pertaining to the love relationships and how they could have changed or they could have had new perspectives on their love relationships after the parents' divorce. About 61% reported that their parents' divorce had an impact on their new on love relationships and their new perspectives on these love relationships. I then took those responses and connected them to which age the participant underwent the process of divorce, and found that 80% of teenagers that their parents got a divorce from the ages of 8 and 17 years old view love relationships differently. Likewise, 70% of participants that their parents got a divorce between the ages of 0 and 7 years old, they review love relationships differently. I also included short answer responses to various questions so that the participant could explain some past experiences or further reasonings or emotions towards the topic or the question. After receiving 52 responses on one question and 72 responses on another question, here's what I found. One participant stating, "I don't think that marriage is supposed to be based off of love. It is supposed to work like a partnership. Real love has too many emotions to function like a true marriage should." Another response stated, "It's almost like a fundamental example of trust and commitment was never formed for me. But I can never tell what was done wrong because I was so young when they split. I don't know how to be better in relationships than they were, but I never had an example to show me how to even be normal." From my results, I can infer that divorce has a negative impact on the upbringing of a child. The size of this impact can differ from person to person, commonly depending on which age their parents underwent the divorce process. I can't infer that mental or behavioral health changes were beneficial or detrimental to each person in my survey, but I can infer that each individual underwent changes in important health aspects because of the process of divorce. I can conclude that divorce plays a role in developing new intimate relationships amongst teenagers, often coming from a lack of commitment and trust. It almost seems like simple relationship foundations are never truly formed in products of divorce. Thank you.
Well, I have the first question for you. How did your initial exploration of the scholarly research and conversation lead you to your final research question or your project goal?
So my initial research of the scholarly articles allowed me to further understand that I am very passionate about divorce and that this is something that I believe could very well affect many, many people. And so after looking at many scholarly articles, I found that not only can it be detrimental to the mental or emotional behavioral aspects of a teenager's health, it can also impact them pursuing intimate relationships as well as even pursuing friendships or pursuing other relationships with just other kids.
Okay, thank you.
Well done, Brayden. Well done. I found it, or I appreciated how you went quantitative and qualitative to try to encapsulate the entire picture. So I thought that was a wise move. My question is, what are the real world implications or consequences related to your findings?
So as you saw from my project, about 45% of marriages end in divorce. So divorce not only affects a lot of people, but it affects a lot of families and a lot of children as well as a lot of parents. So I believe that my research could help impact numerous people as well as help build some simple foundations that are often missed and help other people struggling with divorce.
Thank you.
Brayden, you had a really relevant topic to adults, to young people. It's something that even if somebody hasn't been personally affected by divorce, they know somebody that has. So I think that's really fantastic to have a relevant topic and good research. If you could revisit your research process, what would you do differently and why?
If I could revisit my research process, I would probably go back and create 2 surveys. One for kids from divorced families and one from kids from married households. And take these results and compare them and see how they differ and see if they're similar in any ways.
Great.
That's very interesting. I just wanted to note that I really liked that you added in the direct quotes from your surveys, because I feel like that really kind of added to the aspect of how it hits home to the students or the people that you surveyed more than just like the percentages. So it gives that personal meaning a little bit. So I think you did a great job.